2 Samuel 7:28, now, O Lord, you are God, and your words are truth. Your words are truth. John 17:17, Jesus prayed to the Father, sanctify them in the truth. Your word is truth. Now, his knowledge and declarations literally define reality and help us to make sense of what is. Now, this is a very simple statement, but literally, his word defines reality. It literally defines reality. And to me, this is most pronounced when I'm having a discussion with an atheist, because we come from completely different worldviews. The word atheist, from the negative alpha prefix, which negates it, it says something is not. Atheist, not or no God. I am a theist. I believe in God. And I believe the overwhelming evidence is that God exists. And the Bible gives us that special revelation that tells us, gives us insight into things like the Trinity and his characteristics and so on. But when we're talking about the world around us, I can pick up a rock, he can pick up a rock. And we can look at these rocks from different perspectives. Now, when the atheist picks up a rock, he says, well, that's just the accidental collection of molecules, the product of matter, motion, time, and chance that comes from processes that impacted this rock of nature and pressure and water and wind and rain and the elements and that sort of stuff. And he can talk about the molecular composition of the rock. What is its makeup? Are there metals in the rock? Because that can impact its degradation over time as it's impacted by these natural forces. But he sees that rock merely as just something, it's just the accidental collection of molecules that comes from a universe that started with a big bang. There's no intelligent design or designer behind the universe. It just came into being. Boom, here it is. And it just processed, and now the atheists say, well, 13.8 billion years is the big argument now. And they need time, and they need deep, deep, deep time. They need lots of time for their system to work. But everything becomes reduced to the product of matter, motion, time, and chance. Matter, motion, because matter must be set into motion for chemistry to work. Matter, motion, time, and lots of it, and chance. And what the argument is that with those four things, with matter, motion, time, and chance, what we see is the result of that. That here we are, these complex biological organisms with a tremendous system of biology that makes up this body and this brain, and the billions and billions of cells that make up this brain, and cognition and function and morals, and say all of this stuff is just, but what it does is it reduces man. And we can move from a rock to a person, because if you're talking about a person, the atheist ultimately has to conclude the same thing about the person that he concludes about the rock. And he has to say, well, the person, like the rock, is just the product of matter, motion, time, and chance, just the accidental collection of molecules, evolving bags of protoplasm. Really is all mankind is. And if we have thoughts and feelings and aspirations, well, these are just accidental. There's no reason for this to exist. Ultimately, we come from nothing significant because the universe is sort of self-causing. It's not intelligent. We're here not by design. We just sort of percolated up from the goo to the zoo to you, and here we are. Ooh, big accident in the universe. But that's the view of man. So if that's your view of man, then even morality becomes something arbitrary. We construct morality. We say this is right and that's wrong because it suits our purposes, and really for purposes of power that we want to impose upon others and control them. And it's anyway, they get into really deep ideas that's born out of their evolutionary mindset. But as somebody who comes from a Christian biblical worldview, I say no, the universe is not the product of matter, motion, time, and chance. It's not a big bang. The Bible tells us in Genesis 1:1, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And bara, he created it out of nothing, ex nihilo. God just spoke, and it just simply came into being. And then we know from Genesis chapters 1 and 2 that God formed Adam from the dust of the earth. One can think of in Genesis 2 where he formed him from the dust of the earth. And then he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, the neshama chaim, and Adam takes that breath in, and at that moment he receives the impartation of his immaterial nature. He becomes a biological being with mind and will and emotions and consciousness and self-consciousness and a sense of morality within himself. And within seconds after God creating him and giving him immaterial life, apparently he had a download of language because God was immediately in conversation with him. But when you look at, if you'd have gone into the garden at the end of day 6, you would have seen God corresponding with Adam in a fully mature body. You would have looked at trees around, and you would not have looked at Adam and thought, oh, he's 5 minutes old or 2 hours old. You would not have thought of the trees as being fully developed with full hanging fruit as being a few days old, because God created everything in a state of maturity. And even when he created the universe, he stretched out the light such that it was present on those first couple days when he created the universe and the earth, such that when man looked out at the stars, he could see stars that are light years away. And light travels, I think it's at 186,000 miles per second. And it speaks to, when we talk about something being a light year away, it's a measure of distance that's based on the speed of light and so on. But everything was stretched out such that man could see that light instantaneously. The light didn't have to start and then travel for millions or billions of years to get to us. No, all of a sudden one day, ooh, we can see it. It was stretched out. It was already there. And so this challenges our fundamental assumptions about the very nature of things. But when I look at the creation around me, I see it as the creation of the hand of God. When I look at another person, I don't see the accidental collection of molecules. I see somebody who is made in the image of God. Tselem, the Hebrew word says, that we are made in the very image of God, the imago Dei, that we are fellow image bearers. Now, we are fallen, and the image is effaced but not erased. And so, when I look at a fellow human being, I see somebody who has intrinsic worth. I don't give them worth. I don't assign worth to them. They have worth in themselves. It is intrinsic because they are made in the image of God. And this is heavy to think about, but it's true. And my point is that even when you look at sin in the world, I can understand its origin because I understand sin exists only in connection with the willful creatures who manufacture it. I see sin as the result of fallen angels and fallen people, not from God. God is not sinful. He's not the author of sin. That comes from fallen angels and fallen people. But I see a fallen world around me. I see my body, which is dealing with arthritis and neuropathy and health issues. And, I see things that are going on. And I say, well, that's part of the fall. So again, very, very different worldviews with regard to how we see these things. But when one comes to the Bible, we understand, again, that his knowledge and his declarations that are set forth in the Word literally define reality. And that is a very important statement to understand because it literally gives us the basis for knowledge. It gives us the basis for knowledge, such that when I look at a thing, I know generally why it exists, and I understand its state of decay. I understand that history is going somewhere because Christ is coming back, and there's a future and a hope. And anyway, these things have great practical and philosophical significance when one gets into these things. So again, God is truthful, and his knowledge and declarations literally define reality and help us make sense of what is.